I would now love to invite onto the stage the president of Women in Film and TV International and the director of Carla 2020, Helene Granqvist, and Regina Mosch, who is the programmer for Carla.
Thank you very much, Victoria. And thank you all who have contributed these 2 days so far, and all of you who have been here. For us who have worked with Carla for a couple of years now, it's such a joy. When we started to plan for Carla, it was planned to be a physical event in Karlskrona, Sweden. Then we had a pandemic coming, and life happens to us. This program item was called Trauma and Why Stories Keep Us Alive, and we have had very good discussions with the two women you soon will meet about it. But then life happened in Lebanon. I'm awfully happy that Danielle Davie, who's a visual anthropologist, and Myriam Sassine, who's a producer, decided to be here today. And we also decided to talk more about the current situation. And as a WIFTI president with a big mission to gather people together, I encourage all of you to listen, and to put a lot of solidarity in your heart. Welcome, Myriam. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, Danielle. I hand over to Regina, who will ask you.
I'll hand over to you, ladies.
Hello. Fantastic. Yes, I think, thank you so much, Danielle and Myriam, for joining us here. It really means a lot that you take the time to talk to us. And this session is about trauma. It is about making films in deep crisis, and it's also specifically about Lebanon and you know how Lebanon and the people and the creative people in Lebanon have dealt with crisis and being creative in crisis in the past, and also, of course, after the most recent events in Lebanon, the blast on August 4th. Myriam and Danielle, how are you both today?
It's a difficult question because it's between the gratitude of being alive and I guess like feeling completely lost because nothing we know is the same anymore, and we feel we need to rebuild our entire life. This is how I feel. I don't know for Danielle.
I second Myriam. She has the right words. Yeah.
And you know, when Lebanon has gone through difficult times and times of crisis in the past, the war, the financial crisis, you know, can you talk a bit about what the solutions were that were put into place, both by the industry, so to say, and also by the creative people themselves? Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, I don't know if we need to go back to the history of the Lebanese cinema, but when we were talking with Myriam, we to prepare a conversation with you, we noticed that it's been 10 years that Lebanese cinema was having a kind of momentum of change, and a lot has happened in terms of storytelling and new, maybe financial plans. And what is interesting is that we know that it's a kind of new generation that had the desire to reinvent, experiment, and try to make films that looks more like us. And we had seen workshops, film markets, festivals, special screenings, funds, art houses, and even new financing desk or new possible co-production. And all that was, I guess it all participated to sort of recreate our industry. And because still today we can't say we really have an industry in our country. And all this initiative seemed utopian because our country is unstable economically and politically. and we can't all depend on the state or a country to be sustainable. So most of our initiatives were based on foreign funds, but I'm not sure that it's what we want, and maybe I can let Myriam continue.
Indeed, like I started working in the film business 10 years ago, and it was indeed a moment where a lot of change was happening to our cinema, partly because of the rise, the more and more creative producers starting to work, a new generation of filmmakers who really were tired of seeing almost the same Lebanese film happening. There was like a very similar narratives. There was a lot of films about the Civil War, and we felt with a lot of other filmmakers that there was nothing telling about the current society we're living. And of course, my generation is the generation born at the end of the war, and so we had different stories, and we really didn't connect with the stories that the elder generation was doing. And so there was a lot of work on trying to see how we could make films in a country where there was no funds, no public funds, and so we started following the model of the films that were done before us, which were mainly French co-productions, because it was the only country we had signed an official agreement with. And then with that, we started discovering that not all the stories we wanted to tell were interesting for the French like co-production or the French funds. And we were a bit frustrated by a lot of projects that were not getting funding. And at the same time, there was a rise in the Arab world of several funds in Doha, in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, that allowed somehow of an independence, because they really wanted to help Arab cinema. And so we had, for the first time, like funds that came to our projects where we were only competing between each other as Arabs. And also that allowed us to make films we wanted to make, as long as they were in small budgets. So documentaries really starting to happen more and more, and directors felt free to make films without really following the ties of TV channels or you know, they were really free as long as the budget was under $100,000. And fiction was always more problematic, because fiction costs more and is more heavy, and we still were looking for ways to adapt. And with time, we started realizing that we were not really thinking about the audience, and we were really making films that were aimed to circulate in festivals and like to bring attention towards our country and like help directors emerge, but not really films that would help, you know, sustain some kind of economical financial model. And so we started thinking in different ways. My colleague Antoine Waked and I, we were always frustrated why we didn't receive anything but art house dramas. We were a bit tired of these. We felt somehow we were receiving at one point really the same story, but in different setups. It was always a Lebanese guy who was abroad, comes back to Lebanon, either to bury his father or his mother, or to settle the heritage of the house, and then he recovers the country and goes on a trip. And we're like, but why is everyone writing the same story that is becoming redundant? Like the first two scripts we read were interesting, but then it became like different interpretations of the same topic. And we felt there were a lot of things happening. And we were wondering, why isn't there any horror movies coming from Lebanon? Why isn't there any thrillers, sci-fi films, fantasy films? And when we started asking around the filmmakers we were working with, everyone was saying, you know, those films, they're like commercial, it's badly seen if we deal with those films. It can't be, they're not like it's B-series films, and also they cost a lot. Like, we don't want to be associated with this kind of cinema. And we didn't feel this way, because in all genres, there are good films and bad films, or like commercial films and highly artistic films. So we decided to create a fantastic film festival that we called Maskoon, which means haunted in Arabic. And that was mainly oriented in the beginning to the Lebanese film scene, to start showing them that genre films can be like highly artistic films that also tell about the society, and that also reflect a very editorial line, or themes, etc., or a visual style. And so we started bringing in films that would come from all the parts of the world. We tried to bring in films from countries that that are similar to our country. So we brought films from Iran, we brought films from Greece, we brought films also like, we went to Mexico, Iran, we have brought a film from Russia. Like, we tried to show films that were made with small budgets, that were very indie, that had some political context. And we tried to bring in also a bit the filmmakers. We were doing also panels about the genre filmmaking. And in the second year, we launched a competition for Lebanese genre shorts. And to be honest, this festival like grew very big in terms of like audience appeal, and in terms of how much the filmmakers, especially the young ones, connected to us. And from the second year when we launched this short competition, we received around 40 shorts. Not all of them were genre, because no one really knew what genre is yet. But almost 70% of these films were made just for our festival. And when talking with Danielle, we were trying to analyze a little bit why this like this second edition festival would, you know, trigger filmmakers to do shorts for it. And we believe it was because the people behind it, were affiliated to the lead production company in Lebanon. And we have been very active at that time. It was 2016. We had premiered a film in Cannes. We had we were almost premiering every year a film in a big festivals. And I think a lot of the young filmmakers wanted to work with us, or wanted, you know, a way to connect with us. And the festival was a much easier entry, because, you know, you are showing films, you are hosting panels. It's not the same framework as, you know, meeting with a filmmaker to do his project, and it's a much lighter way to meet. And so we received a lot of traction, and it allowed us to help to work with those filmmakers and stay in touch with them, which led the competition to grow bigger every year. And every year we felt that the films were getting more genre-oriented, more politically driven. This year we had a lot of dystopian films, which really, which were made before the October Revolution, but really when we see them today, they really tell something about the state of the country before everything, you know, fell apart. And all of this triggered us, for us as producers, to start also developing our own films that were genre. So we started working on our first horror film, and then we have a political thriller ongoing, we have a dystopian film. And so it really allowed us to shift with the filmmakers we work with and give somehow the feel of, for the young filmmakers, that you can do other films than what you are used to see from Lebanese cinema. Like, these are successfuls, the one we've been seeing in festivals, but it doesn't mean other films wouldn't be successful.
That's very interesting, and it really, there seems to be really this urge, right, to this creative urge, and for young people and filmmakers to express themselves, and that I find quite interesting. And if we go to sort of, you know, today, what's you know, what has happened, what is happening now, what do you feel like, what is it that you as individual creatives and also sort of your collective creative community, what is it that you need right now? How can, you know, a global community, for example, also help to, like, not, you know, kill this creative urge that's really coming from you all filmmakers, but, you know, continue to sort of lift this up even after this horrific tragedy?
Maybe there's different levels of answers, because there's the help from funds, okay, but our society and what we're living today, and especially after the blast beginning of August, I think it's not anymore what kind of storytelling and audience and financing plan we can think of. It's because even if we get funds today, the banks here are blocking our money, so we don't have access to funds. So it means, in the terms of co-production, we have to think differently, and we have to think how to make our films. And I feel that we're way more dependent today from abroad than before. And yeah, I mean, with the COVID and our own political and economic crisis, Lebanese cinema was adapting, and I mean, adapting very difficult. It was unbearable, but trying to find solution with how to bring money in, you know, the cash flow, how to bring money to the country. Who will come from France with a suitcase with cash and things like that to make our films. But I think what said Myriam, that after the August 4th, the blast, I mean, the question we were asking ourselves with Myriam is, do we really, what are we doing here? And are we able to make movies, or what kind of stories? I mean, we can see filmmakers and journalists on the ground today, but I don't know what is left from the desire of, you know, telling stories. Or yeah, I don't know if Myriam, you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, Danielle. The thing is, we've been really adapting to a lot since October. Sometimes I feel like I don't know how a human being can adapt so much, because in addition to the revolution and the inflation, our money was blocked, and then like the pandemic was happening, so we were stuck in this place with everything. Like the poverty rate was increasing, and in August 4, like before August 4, we started coming together and talking with the other people from the cultural sector and the cinema industry to think about how we can, you know, survive this, and how we can still manage to fight what was happening. Because even before the blast, culture had no space anymore. Like the cinemas were closed, the theaters were closed, and it was not only because of the pandemic, it was because of the fact that it wasn't a priority anymore. The priority was for food, it was for medication, and like it really felt sometimes when we were talking about the necessity, you know, of screening films or doing something related to culture, as if we were living on another planet and really disconnected from the tragedy that was ongoing. And so we started thinking about maybe civic cinema screenings where we would talk about politics in addition to like using film to talk about something else, or also to make fundraisers to help certain causes. And really it was starting to happen in June, July, and then August 4th, like the blast happened and suddenly a whole part of the city was destroyed. It was the part where most of the film companies and a lot of the artists and galleries and musicians live. So it felt like our sector was really killed, like in addition to the destruction and the fact that a lot of people actually died. But like it really felt like everything we were working for like there was something that came and completely destroyed it. And now it's really hard. Like I had launched the pre-production of a feature film on the 3rd of August. And we had spent a month trying to figure out how we were gonna make it, and with the banks and Danielle was talking about. We really were putting it together. It was like a Lego sculpture. And then on the 4th, the country explodes. I really took it as a sign, as maybe we should not be making this film or films at that moment, because this is not just the timing. But I believe it's too soon to answer your question, because we really don't know. We are in a momentum of time where we really don't know what is the urge to create anymore. And I think in that sense, maybe this is how the international community can help, like by triggering us to keep thinking about culture and arts, because in the place where we are living, it doesn't seem there is a space for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you for coming here to share what's happening. I'm thinking what Johanna Collinen talked about this morning, that some of the industry are disconnected from the real life, and you shared things from real life. I had a privilege to meet some of your sisters in the MENA region in Tunis last year, and you are also members of the Sisters in Film. You started to organize in the MENA region last summer, right? And tomorrow at Kala, we will have a conversation with, you will be there, Danielle, and some of the directors. You are from 7 countries in the MENA region. I hope that we can continue the discussion, how we can use our global community to support and I think, yeah, continue to talk about it and continue to share our stories. So thank you very much.
I'll bring Victoria back, and she'll round us off. Victoria, are you on your way? There you are. Fantastic. Welcome back.
Trying to get myself to not fall into the trap of being on mute. Thank you guys so much. I mean, it really hurt to hear how the art sector specifically was affected in Beirut and Lebanon. I mean, of course, what happened in August was very, very sad. But times like this is when a society needs its artists. And to hear that, quite specifically, I feel like the blast also, blew up the art. Prayers, hugs, and everything going out to you guys and to the people of Beirut and Lebanon. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing.
Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you.